Well, hello, folks. It's Mike here. I just want to welcome you back to the Cast Iron Carnivore Show. And today we're going to be diving into real food, real people, and real talk. And I've got a guest today that I think you're going to be real excited about. At least I am, anyway. And we've got Liz from Carnivore Science with us today. So just want to welcome Liz. Hey, Liz, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
Man, if I was doing any better, I'd have to sit on my hands, keep from waving at everybody. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. Yep. Yep. I know how you feel.
Yeah, well, good deal. Well, that title to your YouTube channel now, that Carnivore Science, has got me curious. So, can you
Mhm.
kind of give us a little opening and rundown of who you are and what you're up to, and
Mhm.
a little bit about your experience and different things with your channel, and just
Okie doke.
let us know.
Okay. Well, I was born a poor Southern child. No, I gotta go that far back. Okay. So, I actually, well, you know what? It's kind of relevant what I was like as a child because when I was a kid, okay, I was a stick, literal stick. String bean is what they called me. And my sister was a big person, right? So that's important that I start this off by saying, you know how they say people are different, right? When it comes to carnivore, it's like everybody's different, everybody eats different, blah, blah, blah. Now, the human body works the way it works, right? But man, she could look at a piece of cornbread and gain 10 pounds, and I could eat 10 birthday cakes a day and not gain a pound. So, I mean, I never had to worry about what I ate, nothing like that. So, that was when I was younger. And it lasted until I was in my probably like 30s or 40s, right? And my background is the reason my channel is called Carnivore Science is because I'm a scientist. So I got a first I got a degree in medical technology. So when you go to the hospital labs and they take all your blood and they're running your blood and they're looking at your pee and everything else, like that was what I did. So that was my first career, and I went into a lot of viral like work. I went and worked for the Red Cross, and I was working in hospitals during the AIDS epidemic. So that was wild. I mean, that's where I got my feet or my toes in the lake of the FDA because they were trying to develop new tests in order to actually detect the HIV sooner because there was a window and people were getting disease. They were actually contracting the virus from the blood supply. So I worked for the American Red Cross or whatever, worked with the FDA. And then I really looked at them and I was like, "Oh, wow, you guys you're the good guys, Oh, you're here to keep us safe." And wow, I was naive. So I mean, but I was young, so I didn't know any better. So I got into regulatory, which is basically the Code of Federal Regulations, which is CFR. It's all the federal regs, and I started working. Long story short, but I got into first like blood supply type stuff, and then I got into pharmaceuticals. So I went back to school before that and got a chemistry degree. So I'm a pharmaceutical chemist. Moved to Florida. I'm originally from South Carolina, but I moved to Florida after I got my chemistry degree. It was a little decent time after. And I got into clinical trial manufacture. So where you actually make the drugs that they use for clinical trials. So that was absolutely horrifying. I did a lot of years of that and it was extremely lucrative. It was a very lucrative career to be in. I mean, you make a fortune when you go into that field. Um, but I started to see how things worked really. And one of the things I saw that actually was a turning point for me, and it was an evolution, was when I realized how they sold drugs. So when you think a lot of times, well, oh, there's, these noble, there I was thinking the noble scientists were there to cure things and make things better. When in actuality, they don't want to cure anything. They just want to mitigate symptoms to keep you going, but it takes more and more drugs. So when they decide, and this is in general, I'm not speaking of any particular company that I've worked with, because I've worked with Pfizer and Lilly and all the big ones and some of the smaller ones and CROs, which are contract research organizations, all different sizes. But when you actually look at mainstream drugs, when they're going to decide what drug to actually pick to develop, they pick the one in a lot of cases where it's going to have the most satellite drugs. And when you look at a drug, like, so they say, we're going to sell this drug for eczema and it's going to cure eczema or whatever, but it's going to cause rampant diarrhea. It's going to cause like acid reflux and something else. So we have 3 satellite drugs that we can make money off of if we prescribe this one. And a lot of people don't believe that that's really the way it works, but it is, and that goes for big food, big ag, all of it, right? So when I realized that this was what was going on, um, and it's funny because later I fell into this pit myself. But even though I knew this, I couldn't do it anymore. So I moved over to medical devices because medical devices is still, it's a different regulation, but it's still my wheelhouse and my expertise because I have all this, 20 years of experience in this and I couldn't just throw it away. But I also, you got to worry about your soul. So it's like I couldn't face myself in the mirror every day knowing what was going on in the pharma industry. So that's how I kind of salvaged my career. But during the time that I was working in medical devices, and this was probably 2013, 2014. Well, I'll tell you what, I go back. So when my daughter was born, if I go back to when I was still in pharma and my daughter was born, that was in 2005. I got a debilitating after she was born. Just, I mean, and again, I wasn't overweight back then or nothing. I looked great. I was really thin even after I had my kids. But I had a debilitating like achiness, like all over my body. I had muscle pain. I had joint pain. They were like, "Oh, you've got arthritis. You've got fibromyalgia." And fibromyalgia, if you don't know anything about it, they literally, and I'm not making this up, they bring you in the office, and if you say you've got widespread pain and they don't have any other reason for it, they literally poke you and say, "Does this hurt?" I mean, that's how they diagnose fibromyalgia. It's crazy. So, they diagnosed me with that and put me on an opioid, that I took for 17 years of my life because it was the only way to fix it. And keep in mind, I've tried vegan diets, I've tried all the diets. Nothing changed anything. I always had to take this tramadol, this opioid, every day of my life in order to function. And I functioned, it worked. It doesn't really drug you up. It's just, it's still a drug, it's a pretty strong drug. So I was taking that. That sucked. So about 2013, for whatever reason, I moved back to South Carolina and I was a single mom and I have 2 kids and I was raising them. And for whatever reason, I started gaining weight. Something changed where the kid who can eat 10 birthday cakes was gone and I couldn't look at anything, but I was using food for comfort. I was a food addict. I didn't know at the time that was a thing and you could be one, but I mean, I honestly I would Jones for food. I mean, I could tear up some cream horns and some Coca-Colas and I was doing it to basically comfort myself because of what had gone on in my life and things like that. And it's hard, raising 2 kids. And so I gained 100 pounds. And I'll tell you what, it snuck up on me because the way that I gain weight is like if you ever take a candle and you dip it in more wax and you just keep doing it and it gets a layer all over it. That's the way I gain weight. So I'd wear loose clothes and a lot of people didn't know I was that fat. And they're like, "I don't remember you being, I didn't know you were that fat." So it was so I was hiding it from myself because like I had a flat stomach, but I was fat. I was obese because I was carrying an extra 100 pounds. I was able to carry it without looking real bad, but I knew it and it was horrible. So I was a recluse. I didn't want to do anything. I did what I had to with the kids, went to work every day. But, you know, it just was, I was turning into a hermit and I'm like, well, this is life or whatever. And I developed more conditions. I had a lot of other problems. I didn't sleep correctly. I actually developed really horrible acid reflux, horrible, like to the point where it felt like someone was stabbing me in the center mass. It was horrible. I had anxiety, all kinds of issues. I had my gallbladder had to be removed in 2014. Just a myriad of stuff. And the breaking point for me, and I had tried keto. I did keto and I lost weight, but I had to literally almost kill myself losing weight, right? So I was running on a treadmill, 5 miles a day, and I'm also starving myself. So it wasn't so much keto, and it wasn't a high fat type of keto. It wasn't a correct way to do keto. It's basically a starvation diet. So the reason I lost weight is because I starved myself, honestly. But I wasn't eating carbs. So I lost about 40 or 50 pounds, but then it came back, because if you do lose weight that way, it's going to come back. It's not the way that's going to work. So I gained about 30 pounds back. Now I was lighter, but I didn't feel good. I never felt great, even though I lost some of the weight. But at the time, the only thing I'm thinking of is how to lose weight. I'm not thinking of my health or anything. So really, what happened was in 2022, the day after Thanksgiving, I had spent 2 days cooking, just solid for everybody. And I really didn't eat that much sugar and things like that. I was still kind of keto-ish, but I would still have vegetables and things like that. And I woke up the day after Thanksgiving and I was in so much pain. My hip hurt so bad, and it was down deep. So it was like in the front where your hip bone, sticks out kind of. And it was really down deep, and it was scaring me because I'd never had hip pain before. And I just woke up and I'm like, well, crap, sometimes my knee hurts, my back pain. I had back pain for years and years and years that never went away, my entire life, almost ever since I had kids, at least. And, just, I was like, well, it's just another thing, what's going to break today? What are we going to feel like today? So, excuse me. So I got up and I called my sister. I was scared because I'm like, this is worrisome, because this is weird. I don't know where it came from. And it's so painful that I can hardly stand it. So I go to the ER the day after a holiday, which if you understand what that looks like, how desperate you have to be to go to an ER. That's how scary. So I go into this, I'm sitting there waiting, and of course it's the American healthcare system. So we're waiting hours and hours and hours, and thank God my sister was with me. But I'm looking around the room, and just, I'm like, oh my God, look at this sick and fat population. And I'm one of them. And we're just falling apart. I'm like, why am I falling apart at this age? This is ridiculous. And a little voice in my head was like, well, just grab another cream horn, because, this is your life and you better get used to it. You might as well enjoy yourself while you're deteriorating and going down the toilet. That's what was. And I'm like, I guess. So I go back there and I'm hoping they'll find whatever it is. I'm hoping it wasn't serious. They do all these tests. We're there all day. Little Doogie Howser comes in, little doctor, and he goes, well, we didn't see anything. This visit cost me $5,000. And he goes, oh, it could be inflammation. I'll give you a steroid. I snapped. I had a psychotic break at that moment. And I'm like, okay, I'm 55 years old. What, did the Lord in heaven make all humans ready to expire at 55? No, this does not make any sense. I don't understand. I'm angry. So I'm super mad. And I just I don't know. I'm just looking for answers. I wasn't even thinking diet. I'm just like, what is wrong? Something's wrong with the world. There's all these drugs. Nobody's curing anything. Everything's a scam. There's got to be a way out of this. There's got to be something. And so I start digging around, and that's when I saw Anthony Chaffee. And he's like, you know how many toxins are in plants? And it all of a sudden, it's like your life flashing before your eyes, because I'm a chemist. I had looked at the back of a can. This is how good the brainwashing is. Okay. I looked at the back of a can and went, oh, good God. I know what that is. That can't be good. We're eating that. And I was like, oh, okay, let me just buy it. And I would buy the stuff. And I didn't even pick up on it. And I continued to eat that way. And I'm like, oh my God. All of a sudden, I'm like, this has to be it. This carnivore thing where he was talking about the toxins in plants and yada, yada, yada. And I had done not a higher fat version of keto, which you need that animal fat. That is critical, for healing, especially. And so I went down the usual suspects: Ken Berry, Anthony Chaffee, Dr. Baker. And then from there, I actually started carnivore that night, the day after. And 3 days, I haven't slept through the night in probably 20 years. I slept like the dead. And not only do I sleep like the dead, when the alarm clock goes off in the morning, like I don't even need the alarm clock anymore. I wake up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
and I sleep through the night like the dead. And I never need an alarm clock. And my hip pain was gone within 3 days. It
Wow.
was gone. And everything else was gone. And when I say everything else, I mean everything else. It was crazy. And then and I probably, after about 5 days, I could have stopped taking my opioid that I was taking, but I was too scared because I was afraid I was so, attached to it. I'm like, oh my God, but if I stop taking it so fast, like I'm going to hurt, or have rebound pain. But I was able to I got off of that in a month. And I haven't touched a pill. That was 3 years ago. And I haven't touched an ibuprofen or a Tylenol. I haven't taken any medications, and I haven't been sick once at all. Like I haven't there's nothing. I used to go to the doctors like every 6 months. I used to give them $150 like every 6 months. And I haven't seen that woman, which is a blessing because I hated her. She was awful. She wanted me to take statins and everything else under the sun. But it's like a miracle. And you literally, like, after this happens to you, you feel like you're in some kind of a I don't know, like candid camera or something, and somebody's going to come out. You know what I mean? Like it can't be this easy kind of thing. So it saved my life. I mean, literally, because I was ready to curl up in the corner with some cream horns and just go to that whatever pasture like gracefully. But instead, I like have more energy than I know what to do with. I mean, I have a new life, basically. My life is completely different. Like I don't stop. I'm 24/7. I'm not hiding in my room anymore, afraid to come out and ashamed of what I present as.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing, amazing story.
Yeah, it really is. And it makes me think a little bit when you're talking about when you did your research, you got to looking around. And of course, naturally, we always go to YouTube or Google
Mm-hmm.
and do some research. Dr. Google has always been,
I
helpful
know.
to us. And I often say, I don't, I don't need to Google because my wife knows everything. I shouldn't say that. Should I?
Hey,
But
that's the
no,
safe way. You better be. Yeah, that's a safer idea.
oh, she knows I'm just teasing with her. But
Mm-hmm.
it is true. We do research, do our own research through YouTube and Google. And so you found Dr. Chaffee, which we know, you and I both know, and most of our guests knows that he's very strict line diet
Mm-hmm.
type. He basically just
Mm-hmm.
eats beef, salt, and water. And so that's very extreme. But he also talks about how plants, in his schooling and research that he's done and continues to do,
Mm-hmm.
that the plants are causing a lot of the problems that we have health wise. And so when you research that and you run across him, and you run across old country hick Ken Berry from Tennessee. He was the one that attracted me. I thought,
Mm-hmm.
I resonate with this guy because we talk the same, we act the
Mm-hmm.
same, we're about the same age, and I
Yep.
could just relate to him. And I listened to him, and that's how I kind of got started. And later on, initially fell off the wagon and quit for a while because
Mm-hmm.
I'm Mr. Cast Iron on YouTube, and I'm always
Mm-hmm.
making all kinds of things like that and dealing with cast iron. So I got away from what I knew was right from keto and carnivore, and I fell back into it
Mm-hmm.
again until I had an episode. And so I knew initially when that happened that I knew how to get lined back out. So
Mm-hmm.
when you run across that and you run into these guys and you started doing your research, how hard was it to transition? I know you said you started, but like how hard was it to implement actually excluding vegetables? I mean, that just goes against our anything that we've ever been
Mm-hmm.
taught our whole life. So how did
Yep.
that work for you?
Well, I was lucky because I had done keto and I have the willpower to starve myself. So it's like if you're able to starve yourself, you can live without things. But this was not like that. But I had already kind of like eliminated starchy things, and I tried to stay away from actual sugar. Now I was still eating processed things, and I was eating fibrous carbohydrates, which are problematic because vegetables that are fibrous, the fiber causes a lot of the problems. So, but what was shocking to me is that I knew about the toxins because I'm a chemist and I knew enough about that. And I knew that the WHO had that posted, had those toxins posted, but for whatever reason, it just didn't click. The vegetables, like the only vegetables I ate at the time were like I would have cauliflower and I would put cheese on it and things like that because that's like your typical keto type food. So I wasn't eating all the vegetables. It's not like I had to leave potatoes. Now that would have been if I had been eating like French fries and baked potatoes. Now that's very addictive. I would have had a problem, getting off of that. But I had kind of a head start, but keto wouldn't work. Now, keto for me does not work because it goes dirty. And obviously, the inflammation that's caused by the toxins in all the vegetables hurts me. So, some people can do keto and some people can stay clean with it. Now, another problem is that, net carbs are not a thing. That's made up. That's a marketing scheme. Like nobody stands by that. It's just something somebody made up to sell stuff. But when you go to the stores, and this is what I did when I was keto, it's like, oh, keto bread, it only has 2 net carbs, whatever the heck that means. It's just made up, but it really has like 18. But, and there's a science to that, but people fall for that. And that's just processed food is all that is. You know what I mean? So you end up with processed artificial food. I fell down that rabbit hole. I couldn't control myself when it came to that. And a lot of people have the same story. But for carnivore, it was actually very easy for me to do because I found myself when I started eating the burgers and the ribeyes, and everybody usually starts off with ribeyes. I was eating ribeye, ribeye, ribeye. Like every day I was eating ribeyes. And it was so good and I was so full. I didn't think about food anymore. I didn't have, and the cravings were what I needed to get rid of. The cravings had to go away because I was eating things that I would crave, even though I was eating like keto things and it was kind of processed. It'll start the cravings because there's food that will kick off cravings and there's food that does not. And carnivore, if you're eating meat, in the first couple of weeks, I did lion diet. Now, I didn't stick to lion diet because I consider when I say carnivore, and this, I don't know if this is a legal definition or not, but I include heavy cream, some cheeses that are very clean, butter, and then meats. But essentially, that's it. So I incorporated that other stuff like pork, chicken, and like I say, hey, if you're SpongeBob and you want to go out in the middle of the ocean and milk a jellyfish, have at it. That's from an animal, so it's fine. You know what I mean? Anything from an animal in my eyes is carnivore. So, yeah, which not that I'm gonna do that, but if you want goat or goat's milk or whatever like that. And a lot of people will drink milk, like whole milk. I don't do that because the carbs in that would make me feel bad and it would kick me out of ketosis. And I do not ever want to be I stay in ketosis pretty much all the time or most of the time. And I don't like it when I'm kicked out because I feel like, I have kind of an addiction to being in ketosis because you feel so amazing. It's like being a superhero. I can't even describe it. And, I love that feeling. So I loved meat. I loved eating meat. Um, I'd put a lot of butter on it and stuff like that, which I had to like watch that because I don't have a gallbladder. And so, yeah, yeah. the the hot trots when you eat too much butter and you don't watch it. You have to learn what you can absorb because I don't have a reservoir for bile concentration. I just, no gallbladder. So I make the bile and my body ramped up to what I needed. But I mean, you can still overeat on carnivore because I love that food. I love butter. I love, meat. I love all of it. So sometimes I can overeat just like I would anything else, but usually I don't. And then you're satiated. And the freedom was something that because I'll tell you what, I was getting triggered every day I came home. And all I heard, my kids were growing up is what's for dinner? They're looking at you and it's like, oh God, I don't know. I don't want to cook. I've worked all day. And you're always trying to figure out what's for dinner, what's for dinner, what's for dinner. And, I just was ready to throw my hands up and go, I don't care. I don't want to ever eat again. I don't want to ever see food, and I don't want to see a dirty kitchen, you know? So to me, the freedom of one pan, one knife, one fork, one plate, and that's it. I don't have 10 sauce pots and 30, I don't know, saute pans and all the gadgets and the whizzits and the doodads that are used to make the things. You know, that's my son and his fiance. Every time I go in the kitchen, I'm just like, oh, and I turn around and come out because it's just a mess and dishes everywhere. That freedom to never have to ever hear what's for dinner again was just worth its weight in gold. I mean, you talk about setting me free. It's just me and my steak or me and my burger or whatever. And that was an amazing feeling. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, I miss this and that. And I think that sometimes like even you know, over the holidays, sometimes like you'll miss a nostalgia, but I don't even really miss the food. Like, cause I used to like Southerners make something called dressing. It's not, it's like stuffing, but it's smushed down and mushy, and you cook it in a pan and you slice it into little slices. And sometimes I like nostalgic. I like the way it tastes, but I'm not going to eat it because it's going to hurt me. But sometimes like I'll have like, oh, that would be, oh, I wish that didn't hurt me. But, you know, I can still eat the meats and things, but I don't, my life doesn't revolve around food, because that's what us as Americans, like our lives revolve around food. And as a food addict, you have to let that go or you're never going to heal. You have to divorce the food worship. You know what I mean? Like, now I do things like I'll eat some, I come up with interesting, because chemists, just in case you don't know, chemists are cooks. Like if you're a chemist, you're going to cook things. Like you can invent things and cook things, because chemistry, the chemistry of cooking is like a thing. But I make stuff just occasionally. I want something different. And I make like these waffles. They're pork rind waffles, and oh my god, are they freaking amazing. There's nothing in them that's not carnivore. Like there's no, I do eat sweeteners, but it's only stevia. I will only have stevia, and it's like pure form, and it's just like a tiny bit. But I'll make these waffles, and it's got pork rinds, eggs, butter, and I can't remember what else. What is it? Pork rind, eggs, and I think that's it. It's like, and then it makes this amazing like waffle thing, and I'll do that occasionally, but it's got only pure ingredients. Like there's nothing in there that's bad. Now, when you start making things like carnivore people making things with all of these uh powdered ingredients and processed ingredients and weird things, like you're going into the keto territory of dirty keto kind. You're going into that area of, if you get too many, like you've got 15 different ingredients that you're putting together, it gets a little bit dangerous in the food addiction realm. You know what I mean? So, you know, and I try not to use like powdered egg whites and things like that. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of ingredients like that. I try to stay away from that. So occasionally I will eat something like my pork rind waffles, because they're freaking awesome. And I drink tea and coffee. So my carnivore card will probably be removed at the end of this, you know, but I always say, but it's, you know, a lot of carnivores like drink coffee or tea or something like that. It's not good. I mean, there's oxalates and, you know, but Rome wasn't built in a day. And it's like, I couldn't, Chaffee, you know, he's a freaking prophet and everything, but and he's like near perfect, but I can't be a Chaffee and do just the red meat, water and salt forever. And I don't need to, because whatever I'm doing, like it's not harming me. It doesn't bother me, but you have to find out what bothers you. A lot of people, it does. It bothers them and they have to stick to that. But luckily for me, I can do, you know, other foods and stuff.
Yeah, that wow, that's a lot, and that brings up several questions that I have for you. And it's not just an American thing, just to comment on that, but it's also a
Mhm.
Southern thing. Food is definitely
Oh,
Southern, and me
yep.
being in the mid South, in Northeast Arkansas, and you originally from South Carolina.
Hmm.
The food is a thing, and
Yep.
we love that, especially our dressing, because stuffing is stuffed in a bird, and we don't do that. We just make
Oh,
dressing.
you don't
So
do that. You don't do that either.
I don't stuff no bird. We make
Uh,
dressing in a pan, and
oh,
that's
that's
what
cool. That I didn't know that you guys ate that. Like, so I thought that was just a South like type of thing. Because everybody
Nah,
else that I talked to, they're like, "What the heck is that? Like, what are you talking about? What's dressing? What are you talking about? Salad dressing?" I'm like,
yeah.
"No."
Yeah, and you're talking about having somebody pulling your carnivore card. My wife
Mm,
makes a cornbread dressing, with chicken, chicken and
mm,
dressing basically, and it was her mother's recipe. And so
mm,
now that both of our family has both passed on, my mother and dad, her mother and dad as well, but
mm.
she always makes her mother's cornbread dressing, and so who
You
else is
tasted
going to
it.
test it? I mean, I had to be the guinea pig to test it. And I said, Teresa,
Yeah.
this is, I
Yep.
said, but it's all right. It's a holiday.
Yeah.
We're going to enjoy it. We were
Yeah.
by ourselves this year. The kids were off. They
Mm,
all got their lives, and grandkids are they're going
mm,
to other places, and so it was just she and I on that deal. And so I had a tablespoon or two, I guess maybe,
mm. Well,
of
you know what about that now that you're saying that is that I don't think there's a problem at all with doing that. Now, the
no,
key is, are you if you're a food addict, that is something that I can't risk because I'm a food addict. Now, a lot of people aren't though. So if you wanted to, like at Thanksgiving, you have a little, bit and it doesn't
yeah,
make you hurt the next
yeah,
day and it doesn't cause consequences, who cares,
yeah,
Because if you look at our life before, people go nuts on the carnivore, like cult mentality or something.
yeah,
It's like, oh my God, we used to eat ho-hos and ding dongs all the time. it's like it's
yeah.
like
That's
I ate
right.
ho-hos and ding dongs and Coca-Colas every day. We don't do that anymore. You've got to look at where you were and where you're going.
Yeah,
Now, you do have to stay away from it. Like I did a video talking about tips to, survive the holidays. And I said you need to have a standard American diet or in standby to taste all your food if you have to cook, because
mhm,
like if you're tasting, you can taste yourself to death.
yeah,
And I have to do that because I'm a severe food addict and I
mhm,
know what'll cause the cravings and I'm not willing to risk anything for the cravings. But a lot of people can do a little bit here and there, or they can do the holiday meal and they don't have to worry about that. It's going to be different for every person.
yeah,
So I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. But some people get bent out of shape about, I'm not carnivore. Ugh.
yeah.
It's like whatever.
Yeah, and I want to circle back just a little bit while it's on my mind, if you don't mind, Liz. But you had
Hmm.
mentioned something about constantly being in ketosis. Can you share with our audience basically the definition of what it means to be in ketosis, and also kind of give us a rough uh, example of the differences between keto and carnivore, because we have people that are low carb, high fat. We have people that are
Hmm.
looking to follow the keto type diet, in which I understand you're saying, it's easy to fall into what's called dirty keto.
Hmm.
You and I both know what that is.
Hmm.
But can you explain those two, three things, basically what ketosis actually means, the difference between keto and carnivore?
Okay. So, when you're in ketosis, and the thing about the keto diet, the reason it works, if you eat standard American diet and you're eating tremendous amount of carbs, essentially your body doesn't have the ability to burn fat anymore because it doesn't know how, because it's got to deal with all of these huge insulin spikes and this glucose spikes, and it's dealing with carbs, and it's just wearing itself out if you're eating hundreds and hundreds of grams of carbs all the time, which most people are. So your body can't really burn fat effectively. So when you go on a keto diet, keto is where you're keeping your carbs like under 20 and you're not ever touching a starchy carb. That's another thing to add. So you have starchy carbs like baked potato, breads, things like that. Okay, first of all, you blow your limit for the day if you tried to eat it in the first place, but also it just wouldn't work very well. So you're looking at stuff like spinach, God forbid, it's full of oxalates. That's very bad for you. But a lot of keto people will eat spinach, greens, things that are very low in carbs. Cauliflower is a go-to for keto diet. And that works great for a lot of people, like limiting those carbs to under 20 a day. That's keto. And then you have to have, with keto, for it to be effective, you need to have high fat meat. So you need to incorporate the fatty meat because a lot of people will make the mistake of, and like I said, I was talking about starving myself. If you do keto with lean meats, you end up starving yourself, is what you end up doing. Like you're not, and it's not going to work. You're not going to be satiated because the fat is the key. The animal fat's the key. So when you go keto, it'll help you lose weight and all that kind of stuff. Now, the danger is dirty keto is processed food, basically. When you go in the store, if it's got keto on the package, run the other way because it's bad. I don't even have to look at it and tell you it's bad because I know what's in all this stuff. And that dirty keto is not like whole foods keto. So clean keto is whole foods. If it grows in the ground and you can pick it, you can eat it, right? If it's not like carrots or something, you can't eat on keto because it has too many sugars, natural sugars and things like that. You can't have fruit and all that kind of stuff. Berries, I think, if they're super low carbs, you can have a few berries and things like that on keto. But dirty keto is the processed keto snacks, keto bars, keto bread. There's, and it uses the net carb trope. And net carbs were invented as an advertising campaign. The Food and Drug Administration does not back that up. They don't, that's not a definite, that's not even a thing. So even, amongst the scientific community, it's not real. It's an actual PR stunt. And it worked amazingly because it worked on me. I'm a scientist and I fell for it. So that's dirty keto, and you never want to go down that road. It never ends well. I've never seen anybody be successful like at weight loss or health or any of that doing dirty keto. And then you go to the carnivore, which carnivore is defined in a lot of different ways by a lot of different people. Like some people, it's animals and products from animals, like, milk and cream and butter and things like that, and eggs, obviously. So, but some people do lion diet. Lion diet is red meat, water, and salt. Now, a lot of people are so sensitive to the plant toxins, and it causes so many problems with inflammations. Like Michaela Peterson had like an ankle replacement at 14 years old. She had so many autoimmune diseases, and the autoimmune diseases that have exploded in recent years, okay, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people share this opinion, it's because of all of the toxic food, all of the plant toxins, just garbage chemicals in the food. It's causing all of these autoimmune diseases, which are really just diseases of the West. It's diseases of affluence. Like we've become so, and plus we're marinated in food 24/7. We're eating we just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. And everywhere we look, you've got plenty of food and we're just bathing in it. And that in and of itself is something that can cause you harm. There's a reason gluttony's not like an attribute, it's like something bad. It's not good for your body. So, and then on top of it, it's chemicals. It's, all the toxic plants and things like that. So carnivore, lion diet removes everything. It's strictly ruminant animals. So when you look at for lion diet has ruminant animals only, like I think buffalo. You've got lamb, you've got beef, to name a few, and those animals have it's like the double chambered or the double stomach. Like they basically have a processing facility inside themselves that double removes toxins. So their muscle meat has way less toxins in their meat than say a pig, because a pig doesn't have that. So if you're super sensitive, which a lot of people, I mean, I eat the crap out of bacon. I love bacon, and God help me if I ever couldn't eat bacon. But a lot of people can't eat like pork because the toxins get in the meat and then it affects them and they're very sensitive. So it depends on what you're doing it for. A lot of people do this to lose weight only. And I don't think, carnivore is very effective at weight loss, and you're going to be, and going back to ketosis. So if you're on a carnivore or a strict keto diet, you're going to be in ketosis. Your body is going to have to go through what's called fat adaptation. So, because your standard American diet, your body has no idea how to burn fat. It doesn't, because when you burn fat, you create ketone bodies in the blood, and you're using that as fuel. So your brain likes that a lot, actually. And that's the reason when you get in ketosis, you have perfect mental clarity. Like you just become I can't even describe it. I always say, like, it makes me feel like a superhero, and you have energy, and you're just it's like, "Oh, I know the meaning of life," kind of thing. So, that's what when you're in ketosis, that is what that feels like, and your body is burning fat. So, you have to train your body to do that, though. But once you actually go through the fat adaptation, and a lot of times people will start carnivore or keto, and they get what's called the keto flu. And a lot of that has to do with, and run back to Dr. Barry talks about back in the day when we were cave people, like we used to drink puddle water. It's like we didn't have clean processed water with nothing in it. You had minerals and all these things or whatever. And, we don't got puddle water anymore. So a lot of times you'll be electrolyte deficient because it's such a drastic change on your body. It's rough. Sometimes you'll dump oxalates because the foods you used to eat, were loaded with oxalates, and then you get rid of them in your diet, and sometimes you'll dump oxalates. You can have electrolytes get out of whack, all this kind of stuff. You can get heart palpitations. There's a lot of things that can go on in the beginnings when you're actually transitioning. So, but it's just a transition period. It doesn't, and then you feel great, feel like $1,000,000. Some people have 3 days of this. Some people might have a week or two. It just depends on the person. But that's what being in ketosis is like. And I don't like Nick Norowitz actually said the same thing. He's like, I don't like the feeling of being out of ketosis. Like, I don't want to eat anything that's going to kick me out. So that's one of the reasons I love this diet, but you have to eat enough fat. And people are so afraid because of Ansel Keys' damage that he did years ago back in the 70s, where he lied and faked his study, his 22 country study he called it a 12 country study. It was really 22 countries. He just eliminated all the countries that were inconvenient because he was paid by the sugar industry to demonize animal fat. And since everybody, that was the beginnings, or early, even before that, with the advent of Crisco, it's like people started to, demonize fat, and it was to cover up what the sugar industry was doing to everybody. And so, people, though, that was so effective because the 90s, oh my God, we wouldn't go near animal fat. I mean, we were eating dry chicken and rice until we wanted to yak. I mean, I remember those days. Those were some sad times. Everybody was weak and tired and hungry constantly, and eating dry chicken on rice, chicken breast, with no fat and stuff. So, you have to eat enough fat, animal fat, on these diets for it to work properly, is another
Yeah,
thing I'll
we
say.
were skinless, boneless, grilled bacon, or
Hey,
grilled, baked, and broiled, and
yep.
that was it.
Hey, tasteless. Yep, it was horrible. Yep,
Yeah, and it was bad. That's no doubt.
yep.
Well, that was a great explanation. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Mhm,
Another thing too, it makes me think you're talking about. I'm gonna circle back just a little bit on you here. You were talking about coming home and cooking for the kids and things like that.
mhm,
Um, what kind of type of food do you eat on a day-to-day basis? Are you pretty standard, or do you deviate and kind of switch it up a
mhm,
little bit? Another thing too is I think about, we were talking about the dressing and Thanksgiving and gatherings like we have, in the South, and well, the whole country does, but you know what
mhm,
I'm talking about, us being Southern folk. But
mhm,
how does your family and your friends, co-workers, different ones, how did they actually take that when you just, you
mhm,
made the choice, hey, I've got to make a change, and I'm going
mhm,
to start today, and I'm going to be carnivore.
mhm. Well, it's funny, because at home, like, teenagers don't pay attention. Well, they don't care what you're eating. You know what I mean? It's like, and you don't really get everybody's going different ways, for kids that age, because it was about 3 years ago. So they were, I mean, older teenagers, they had jobs and whatever. So, nobody noticed what I was eating, kind of thing, as far as the home goes. Now at work, that was a different story because they pretty much just, they're gonna ask you, "Okay, what are you eating?" And another thing that I do that, was it's one of my hacks because like I said, I drink coffee. This is the funniest thing, like, at work, they literally think they wanna just commit me because I do this. Like, I drink butter coffee. So I put butter in my coffee, which is the most amazing thing, and I need to get rid of coffee, I know, but it is the best thing since pockets. It's amazing. I mean, how can all of these Tibetan monks be wrong? I think they've been doing this for like, I don't know, thousands of years, but I had never heard of it. So I get the really good Kerrygold butter and I put it in my coffee. And I do drink heavy cream, but heavy cream actually causes me to clear my throat a lot or something because I get mucus or whatever. It's not that bad, but I really need to drop the heavy cream, but I'll put the heavy cream in it, and occasionally I'll put MCT, very, very, very clean MCT C8 fraction oil in there because it's like a fraction. It's triglycerides is what it is, and man, that jacks your ketones up to the roof, honestly. So that is an exception to carnivore because it's not carnivore, but it's fractionated. It's so purified. It's only the C8, like the 8 carbon chain portion of the MCT oil. So it's not just a mixture of stuff. But you put all that in your coffee and you whip it up or whatever, and they see me doing this and they're just like, "Did you just put butter in your coffee?" So now they make fun of me on a regular basis because I put butter in my coffee. But what's interesting is that when I lost all the weight and I got to my goal weight, they're like, huh, what are you doing? And it's funny to watch people, because they'll ask me about it now. They want to know, because they see what I'm doing, they see how active I am, they see how energetic I am, they see how much weight I've lost and how much healthier I am, and I don't ever go to the doctor. And all them, most of the people that I'm talking to are on all kinds of pills. They're on anxiety pills. They're on like, Paxil and all of these SSRIs. And, or I know people who have taken Ambien for sleep for 12 years. You're not supposed to prescribe that for that long. They've taken proton pump inhibitors for like 10 years, for acid reflux and all this kind of stuff. And they're just on all kinds of drugs. And then they're like, oh, okay, and I say I reversed all my medical conditions. They're like, what do you take? I'm like, nothing. At 58, and I don't take a pill at all for anything. It's pretty amazing. So, but what I hear people say when they're talking to me, it's like, and then some people have tried it. And I do have a coworker that did try it at work that I'm pretty close to. And she smokes. She hasn't quit smoking. But, and I always tell her, I said, you're messing up my experiment with the smoking. I said, you're like my test subject. I said, you're doing so good. You've been on carnivore for like 2 years and her back pain's gone. So she even reversed a lot of her conditions and she feels great. And she's like, no, I just love my bacon and eggs every day. So that's a positive that she actually listened to me. Now I'm trying to get my sister to do it, but it's not, no. And they're so brainwashed. Like my sister goes, well, that hurts your kidneys. And I'm like, oh my God, that's made up. I'm like, would you please stop believing what everybody's saying? And it's this very, very strict brainwashing, very, very effective brainwashing. And I did a video today, like talking about the lobotomy, which was a thing. That was people. They used to take an ice pick and cram it through people's eyeballs. These are the same. It's the same thing now, where you're saying, "Oh, you can't. Meat's going to cause you to have heart disease and blah blah blah." All of these things that they're saying. It's just like the fact that guess what they thought was a good idea? They thought jamming an ice pick in your eyeball was a good idea. Like before, it's the same thing. History repeats. Like what was it? Solomon said, "There's nothing new under the sun." Okay. It's the same thing over and over and over again. It's like, and so I went through all of the medical horror stories and things that they were like, this is great. This is a good idea. Do this, and look what it turned out to. I mean, you have DES, which was a drug that they gave to pregnant women, and their daughters have vaginal cancer. Their children grew up to have vaginal cancer. They're having to track that generationally because they did that much damage. Okay, so they thought it was great. They were feeding it to everybody. So it's the same thing with nutrition. It's like they don't know everything and they're wrong about a lot of stuff. And we're on the cusp of finding out that they were wrong about all that stuff. My daddy ate the crap out of Crisco. Like that, my mother was told by the doctors and by everybody, you got to get rid of animal fat and eat Crisco. So she changed his diet and she fed him Crisco all the time and vegetable oils. And he had horrible arterial sclerosis. He actually had to have an artery like replaced and stuff. And he was a very, very sick person. So and none of this, all of this is a miserable failure. It's been a big, fat, miserable failure. When you see processed food, the production of processed food and seed oils, and the just explosion of all that, you see the heart disease and the obesity doing this in a graph. You know what I mean? And they're like, correlation is not causation, is not correlation, blah blah blah, and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, but I mean, I've got eyeballs and I have a brain, so and I have common sense. you know it's like you go to the doctor and they don't cure anything, nothing's getting any better, and we go to the doctor over and over and over again and they can't cure anything. I'm like, you're a failure, you failed to give me my money back now. you
Yeah.
know it's
Yeah.
like that's what I feel
Absolutely.
like.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I'm
I
sorry,
got a
I'm kind of ranting because
no, I
I get
love that.
passionate about that.
I love
you
that, and
know
I'm glad you did. I really appreciate that. A couple, two or three quick questions while we kind of round this up and pull it back in. Uh, when you got going on carnivore real good, what was some of the surprising benefits that you never dreamed of, that you didn't even realize you had an issue, but now you realize I did have an issue and it was
Mhm.
obviously taken care of by my diet.
Yeah, one of the things that, and it's funny, there's so many things, sometimes I forget all the things and I'll be, oh yeah, this thing, that thing, and it just comes back in my mind. I need to write them all down on a piece of paper because there's smaller things like, I'd been diagnosed with PTSD because I was in a motorcycle accident where, a woman we lived in Florida, and a woman pulled out in front of us, and it was so sudden. We were going 45 miles an hour, and I was on the back, and I went through the back windshield and landed in her lap. Like, it was very traumatic because when you go, your body goes through a windshield. And I came to, and I looked at her and I was like, "Are you okay?" I mean, because you're just in shock. I crawled out the way I came in, and luck. I don't know. Somebody was looking after me because I didn't have any damage, like bodily damage, because I was had full leathers and everything. But I was it was so, like, it was detrimental to my psyche. So anytime I would be driving down the road, I would tense up, like, I assumed that people were gonna smash into me after that. So I had huge PTSD problems, and I didn't take drugs. Like, they put me on some drugs, but I mean, I was like anti-drug or whatever, so I didn't take drugs for that. But, I'd probably, back then I looked like I needed to because I was so, like, jumpy when I would drive, and I couldn't ride with anybody. And so what I noticed one day, and it's after carnivore, I had been on carnivore, and I'm driving, and for whatever reason, I realized, "Oh my god," like, I passed an intersection and I didn't tense up. Like, that went away, and that was shocking to me that I was like, "Oh my god, that went away." And I'm trying to think, oh, and another thing, one of the things that was amazing, so the PTSD went, kind of diminished. But another thing that happened was that, uh, I had and this was weird, but the first year, and this turned into something different the 3rd year, but I mean, it's still all good, and I'm sleeping through the night like a baby and everything. But in the beginning, what I realized is that carnivore would put me to sleep, like, at a certain time of night, because 'cause I'm a type of person where I'll just keep going. I just wanna stay up all night. I don't wanna sleep. Like, even I've never wanted to sleep. I wish that we as humans didn't have to sleep because it annoys me to have to sleep. Because I'm always, I don't know, I'm engaged all the time. But I would it's like transmission from Mars. I would be doing something on the computer, and all of a sudden, I would just run down like someone just sucked my power, and I'm going down. Like, it's like you're going down in the chair or you're going down into bed, so get where you're gonna be because you're going down. It would put me to sleep, and that seems to me to be a normal thing that your body should do because it's time for bed, right? And it would be like 10 or 11, and it put me to sleep. I'd wake up at 5 without an alarm clock. That was one of the most amazing things. Is like, "Oh my god," like, first of all, it's put me to sleep. I don't have to try. I don't have to force myself to go get in the bed because it's putting me down. Now that changed to where, I actually can push through it. The 3rd year, I started to be able to push through it, but that's another thing, is that the energy that carnivore gives you, I was going till 2, 3 in the morning, like, making content or working on my novels or something like that, and then I was getting up at 5. and that's bad. You can't do that. So carnivore can give you so much energy that you can start to abuse yourself if you're dumb like me. So I had to like rein that back. Said, look, you got to have sleep because that's bad for your heart, it's bad for your body, it's bad for everything. Like you've got to get enough sleep. And I had so year 3, just not that long ago, like I had started to push through, and I mean I can just go and go like the Energizer Bunny. So that also was an amazing development on carnivore.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull my glasses off. I totaled my Harley out in 2010, and that's why my eye looks the way it does.
Oh,
I won't go into that a whole lot. I'll tell that story
uh,
someday. That's
okay.
for another video. But
But you get the
yeah,
PTSD part then, I'm sure.
well, yeah, I'll talk about that for a minute because for
Uh,
several months and even possibly even years, I wondered. He's talking about somebody looking out for you. I thought, Lord, why'd you spare me? Because the way it turned out, I went through an intersection and totaled my Harley completely out. But and I landed in a ditch, and I wondered about that for a long time because when you look at this T intersection, there's road signs. There's about 3 or 4 road signs with metal posts sitting
mhm.
in the middle, and I went right between the middle of them. And when I
Oh,
went down,
wow.
when I seen it coming, I went down and I laid my Harley over and kicked it off of me, kicked it away from me, and I went sliding
Mhm,
to the left. And my Harley, the foot pegs hit in the asphalt, caught in the asphalt, and flipped way up in the air and landed, I don't know, probably 50 or 75 feet away from me. And then I landed in a ditch. And I
oh,
often
man.
wondered, I thought, Lord,
Mhm,
why did you spare me? You could have taken me
mhm.
home then, but he
Yeah.
didn't. He
Yeah.
didn't. And so, I'll tell my
Yeah.
story, and I have a long version of that
Mhm,
story. It's
mhm. I was
oh,
2 weeks pregnant and I didn't know it.
wow. But
I tell my son, I'm like, "You're the little boy who flew through the air." Like,
yeah,
you're a superhero, but so
yeah.
I was 2 weeks pregnant, I had no idea,
Mm,
which
wow.
was weird,
Yeah.
that was freaky. So,
Well, you mentioned something about making content earlier. Let's talk about that for just a minute. What made you decide to start a YouTube channel?
I cannot shut up, and everybody wants me to. That's that is literally it. So I'm like, and I did Dave. Well, the first thing I did was I did Dave Mack's thing because I was watching and he's trying to get people on. I'm like, okay. It's like I like to run my mouth, so I'll just tell my story and that kind of thing. And also, I write. I've published like they're like horror suspense like novels. Okay, and so that part of my life that I do is a creative side of me.
Mm,
And that's from years ago or whatever. And then so it works pretty good because it's a creative endeavor a lot of times, like some of the time, and then it's also the analytical side of me is the teaching side and I want people to know that these people who feel like me, who's sitting in the ER, they're looking around at all these sad, sick people and the little voices in your head telling you to go get a cream horn. I want to scream to the rooftops, no, you don't have to get a cream horn. Like they're doing this to you. You can stop it. You can make it stop or you can reverse it. And because I don't, I wish somebody would have told me that, which nobody I know knew that, and they didn't know the answer. But that was important to me to be able to talk. And then you can't shut up when you go carnivore. It's like you're watching miracles happen and you want to tell people and they're just looking at you like, you eat only meat? It's like, what do you mean you eat only meat? That's not healthy. You got to have your vegetables. So it gets frustrating when you know, screaming in the wilderness kind of thing.
yeah.
So I started with Dave Mack, and then I was like, I'll go ahead and I'll do because I've done like YouTube years and years ago, like because I'm a gamer, but not like serious stuff or whatever. But then, I was like, hey, this works out. And I just do it because I like doing it. And I just cover stuff that I like covering. And it's been going, decent, it's slow or whatever. But I'm able to get it out because my coworkers were going to lock me in a room and throw away the key if I didn't shut up. So, and my family doesn't want to hear it either.
Well, I'm glad you make it. You make good content. You're funny, and
Well, thank you.
It's yeah, it's pretty entertaining some things, but it's very serious too on many notes that you bring about the truth to people, and that's what we want to do. We want to
Mhm.
share the truth because
Yeah.
as you and I both know, we've been lied to for so many years, and we've been so
Yep.
brainwashed, and we're so accustomed to eating ritualistically in a sense.
Mhm.
And it's been, as you said earlier, the medical field, which I'm not a doctor and I don't claim to be or offering any
Mhm.
medical advice or whatever, but the way that the medical industry um, operates is it's not healing anything, and that was been my
Mm-mm.
experience. Is what the problems that I was having with
Mhm.
diabetes is
Mhm.
they didn't want to talk to me about diet and exercise. They just first thing wanted to bring me in and discuss my options for some type of treatment. And I told my
Mhm.
wife when that happened, when I got that news, I told her, I said, listen, I'm not going on Mounjaro and I'm not going to have any gastric bypass surgery or anything like
Mm-mm.
that. I'm not getting on metformin. I've
Mm-mm.
eaten my way into this condition, and Lord willing, I'm going to eat my way out of it. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what I did. And so I lost currently, I've lost 55 pounds, and I went from 7.5 A1C down to 5.3 in 90
Mhm.
days.
Oh,
And
wow.
so,
Wow.
yeah, so and I knew I had to make some changes because,
Mhm.
as you said earlier in the show, we were talking about having a
Mhm.
pain, and I had a serious pain, and I know, it was fatty liver, and of course, I had a brother and a
Mhm.
nephew to pass away from pancreatic cancer, both of them,
Ooh.
and
Yeah.
I didn't want to have any problems there, and so I had to make some changes, and that was my why, and that's why
Mhm.
I've kind of transitioned. I'm never going to get away from the cast iron side, but
Mhm.
I have been implementing more of the carnivore keto type and doing interviews
Mhm.
with people, and that's kind of why I did that. So I appreciate you sharing why you created your channel. Can you kind of give us an idea with our audience of where they can follow you before we wrap this up?
Yeah, right now, I mean, I have, an X account, but I forgot what it is. It's like I don't, I think I'm Meaty Science or something like that, which I barely ever go onto X. I'm just not one of those. Yeah, I'm not a Twitter person really. I mean, I have it and I go there, but I'm on YouTube and it's the Carnivore Science channel. So
Awesome.
that's where I'm at.
We'll post that down in the description and everything and pin comment. One last thing before we go.
Mhm.
For someone that may be on the fence here, someone that may be just starting out doing some research, they've run across this video of two people talking about this way of life. They're not sure, they're skeptical, and yet there also may be someone also that has just started, just kind of sticking their toes in the water and getting going, and
Mhm.
they're kind of curious of what to do and wanting to make sure that they're doing it right and not messing up and making mistakes or whatever. Can you share with our audience some advice that you would have if they're looking to start out?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that carnivore specifically, this is a diet where you can't do it for a weekend to get into a dress, or you can't do it for a couple of weeks. It's not something like that, and in the beginning, when you actually start carnivore, you might have to go kinda slow, like and I always recommend to some people, depending on what their issue is, if they're trying to go lion diet because they're trying to get because they're so sensitive to everything that they're having pain and stuff, that's a little different, but for most people, sometimes if you do keto and you ease into carnivore, it's easier because it's not such a shock to your system, because if you're going from standard American diet to, carnivore, you're gonna number 1, you're gonna go through sugar withdrawals. There's a lot that's gonna happen, but it is a transition period. It doesn't last forever, and then once you're actually through that transition period, not having those cravings and not if you're an addict, most of us are food addicts. If you're on the standard American diet, you're definitely a food addict, probably. And if you're going through that situation, you know that the other side of that is freedom. The shackles, the ball and chain that is attached to your leg that you've been trying to get rid of for your entire life, you can get rid of it, but you just got to get through the hardest part, because it's like any other addiction. It's horrible. I was Dave Mack was talking about how it's easier in a lot of ways to get rid of alcohol than it was sugar and carbs. And I'm talking about breads and pastas and all of those things because they are just as addictive as any crack ever thought about being, to be honest. It's just a different kind of addiction, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
but if you
that's
can get through that transition period, take electrolytes, do the electrolytes, do all the things you need to do so that you don't eat enough salt, so that you don't, the keto flu's not as bad. If you can get through that, on the other side of that is some miraculous results. So
yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great advice. I appreciate you sharing that with our audience. Wow, what a great conversation we've had. And I certainly want to give a big thanks to you, Liz, for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and your sense of humor with us and everything. I really enjoyed this.
well,
And
thank you so much
folks,
for having me.
well,
Thank
you're
you so
quite
much.
welcome. You're quite welcome. And I'm sure we'll see you around in the YouTube community. And folks, if you've not yet subscribed to my channel, now's a good time to do so. If you have any comments or questions about anything Liz and I have spoken about today, be sure and leave those in the comment section, and we'll try to get back and answer those for you. And we look forward to coming back again. You guys have a great day. Now it's Mike over here at Carnivore, Cast Iron Carnivore. So we'll see you guys later. Bye bye.
Bye.